Now, I'm going to draw your attention. In May, a woman named Berta Caceras, and I apologize. I think I am. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, even though I practice it before the show. I apologize. I submit my apology on that. But this is such an important story. It transcends my lack of enunciation. Was an environmental activist and indigenous human rights activist in Honduras. She was murdered in May. Gunmen went into her home and they killed her. And now, according to a report that came out last week in The Guardian, there is a member of an elite military unit in Honduras that he says, now he has fled the country and he was being interviewed in The Guardian. The Guardian says that they had various people that corroborated his identity, but this is under an assumed name, which of course, if he's being honest, it would be an absolute necessity that he would do this. He claims he was part of a military unit, an elite military unit, that had a hit list of environmental campaigners to take out, to murder. And that Berta was on this list. So just to say a little bit more about her, she was, and this I'm quoting now from The Guardian, quote, an indigenous Lenca leader, an indigenous who won the prestigious Goldman Environmental Prize in 2015 for a campaign against the hydraulic dam, was shot dead in her home in March, not in May. Before her murder, she had reported 33 death threats linked to the campaign and had warned international human rights delegates that her name was on a hit list. Now, this goes back to Cruz. This is Cruz, the 24-year-old lieutenant who claims that he was part of this unit. Again, Cruz isn't his real name. He's fled the country, and he said that several other members of his unit have disappeared or been found dead. And according to Cruz, this is quoting again from the article, her name appeared in a list given to a military police unit in the Interinstitutional Security Force, FUSINA, which last summer received training from 300 U.S. Marines and FBI agents. Now, this is, if you know anything about Latin American history and politics, it's horrific. There's nothing surprising about the notion that a military unit would be involved in murdering an activist like this. But the way it loops back, and it's important, again, as part of this process and holding the paradoxes and the realities of this. I haven't changed my position on voting or anything like this, but this goes back to Hillary Clinton and the Obama administration's utter failure in Honduras after the coup that deposed Manuel Zelaya in 2009. Berta Caceras was working with the Zelaya government, somewhat in conjunction with that government, to improve these issues in indigenous communities and environmental public health. So the coup against him shifts her position from someone who potentially could have some advocacy or alliance in a government to someone who quite likely was murdered by a government death squad. Now, when Zelaya was deposed, Hillary Clinton essentially condemned that the coup had gotten too messy. And there were pro forma condemnations that coups are illegal from the Obama administration, which is sort of like saying, that the sky is blue. That's a total irrelevancy as a point. Of course, coups are illegal. That is of the sort of mind-blowingly obvious variety. But when it came to actually sort of declaring and putting legal muster behind saying that there was a coup, she wouldn't go that far in terms of actually saying it. She said, quote, there were strong arguments, but wouldn't go that far. She, of course, had an advisor who's very close to her, Lonnie Davis, who was a strategic advisor to the coup government in Honduras. And she was reluctant to cut aid to Honduras the whole time, all the way through that process. And Honduras receives about $96 million, with $11 million going to military and counter narcotics. So that's the history. And you link that with the behavior in Haiti, the State Department leaning against Haitians from having a serious wage increase. And you look at the Platform Committee and a living wage in this country and universal health care and doing something serious about the global environmental catastrophe. We can be quite real about the divisions we have, even as we make tactical alliances and adjustments. And it's important to know all of these issues.
Hello, you. I'm Sam Seder. Looking for smart progressive talk that is occasionally amusing? Well, subscribe to our YouTube feed. Subscribe to our podcast. Like us on Facebook. And just generally enjoy us.